This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
An Universal History of Christian Martyrdom, Book 1. An account of the ecclesiastical matters which passed in the Church of Christ from its first establishment till the period of 300 years, particularly showing the differences between the ancient and present Church of Rome, in which the absurdity, impiety, and blasphemous doctrines of that Church in modern times are fully illustrated. Christ, in the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 16, hearing the confession of Simon Peter, who first openly acknowledged him to be the Son of God, and perceiving the secret hand of his Father therein, answered again, and alluding to his name, called him a rock, upon which rock he would build his church so strong that the gates of hell should not prevail against it, etc. In these words, three things are to be noted. First, that Christ will have a church in this world. Secondly, that the same church should be mightily impugned, not only by the world, but also by the utmost strength and powers of all hell. And, thirdly, that the same church, notwithstanding the efforts of the devil and all his malice, should continue. This prophecy of Christ we see wonderfully verified, insomuch that the whole course of the Church to this day seem nothing else but a verification of it. First, that Christ hath set up a church needs no proof. Secondly, what force, what sides and sorts of men, of princes, kings, monarchs, governors, and rulers of this world, with their subjects publicly and privately, with all their strength and cunning, have bent themselves against this church. And, thirdly, how the said church, notwithstanding all this, hath yet endured. To bring these events home to the minds of Christians, it will be necessary to treat in the following order. First, of the suffering time of the church, which continued from the Apostles' age about 300 years. Secondly, of the flourishing time of the church, which lasted other 300 years. Thirdly, over the declining time of the church, which comprehends other 300 years, or about the 1000th year after the ceasing of persecution, during which space of time the church, although ambitious and proud, was much altered from the simple sincerity of the primitive time, yet in outward profession of doctrine and religion it was something tolerable, notwithstanding some corruption of doctrine, with superstition and hypocrisy, had then crept in. Fourthly, followed the time of Antichrist, or, as it is scripturally called, the loosing of Satan, or desolation of the church, which contains the space of 400 years. In this time, both Christian doctrine and sincerity of life was almost extinguished, particularly in the chief heads and rulers of the West Church, through the means of the Roman bishops, especially from Gregory VII, called Hildebrand, Innocentius III, and the friars who crept in with him, till the time of John Wycliffe and John Huss, during a space of 400 years. Fifthly, and lastly, after this time of Antichrist reigning in the Church of God by violence and tyranny, followed the Reformation, or, as it may be properly called, the purging of the Church of God, wherein Antichrist begins to be revealed, and his anti-Christian doctrine to be detected, the number of his church decreasing, and the number of the true church increasing greatly. With respect to the Church of Rome, in all the ages above specified, it challenged to itself the supreme title, and ringleading of the whole universal church on earth, by whose direction all other churches have been governed. In writing, therefore, of the Church of Christ, one cannot but intermeddle with the acts and proceedings of the said church, because the doings and orderings of all other churches, from time to time, as well in England as in other nations, have chiefly depended upon it. In order to give a general description, briefly to show, as in a summary table, the misguiding of that church, comparing the former primitive state of the Church of Rome with the latter times of the same, and then to proceed more at large with all the particulars thereof. The title and style of that church was such that it surpassed all other churches, being called the Holy Universal Mother Church, which could not err.